Well, my name is Erich Taelman, and I used to be a director, and now I'm more of a creative producer for VRT, which is the Flemish public broadcasting channel in Belgium. I'm happy to say the channel that's doing best is VRT, which is the public channel I'm working for, which has the biggest market share at the moment with their first channel, because they have several channels. And then there's a commercial broadcaster, which exists now for over 25 years, which is like the second most important channel. They also have a couple of channels. And then there was a third player, which is called VT4, which was owned by SBS, but it has been sold and has been bought out by a local production company who is now owning that station, and their new scheduling begins later this year. And the production company used to make a lot of shows for the public broadcaster. So they're now having their own channel, which means that the landscape is going to change fundamentally. Well, over the past year, and I have to say over the past 10 years, the most popular show was a show I did the very first shooting day for, which is kind of a traditional cop show, which runs on Sunday night. It's called Witze. It has run for 9 years and 117 episodes. And that's been the most popular drama series we had, and the longest running we've had in past history. And that always gets market shares like 55%, 65%, which is the almost major audience in Belgium. Well, it stopped now because like it was all about this one older grumpy policeman, and he really retired, so there was an end to that show. And I'm now running a writer's room, which I'm doing for the first time. This is basically also why I'm here at the TV Drama Lab, to learn about that. I'm show running together with the head writer, a writer's room. Basically, the channel was looking for a new show to take the place of this long-running cop show, or they didn't say it was to take that place, but we kind of felt it. So we pitched a couple of new ideas to them, which I developed with working together with writers. And I thought we had very good ideas, but they didn't like any of them, because most of the ideas were about long arc stories. So they wanted something more procedural, because they could rerun that more easily and schedule that more easily. So we had a thought about that, and then we came back with a new idea, which we think suited the public broadcaster very well. A show about one woman. She's called Helena de Ridder, which is a Flemish name, and she's our fighter for justice in this legal system. She's a public broadcaster, so she services the community, basically, and it's about her struggle of not only investigating, she has the lead in the investigation of the police into the crime. It's not only about finding who did it, but it's also about what happens afterwards, how we're going to deal with this person, how guilty is he, was he good punishment for him, whatnot. It's about all those kinds of dilemmas. We based the show around dilemmas. Another project I'm excited about, it hasn't really got a title yet. It's called like Koben & Co. or Pablo & Co. But it's like a project for children, and it's a feature-length animated movie. And the story is that a young boy who's always drawing wants to create this animated movie, but he doesn't really know how to do it. And he asks the help through a television series. He asks the help of other kids to help him make this movie. And so the story is about all these kids helping this one kid create this feature-length animated movie. And the end of the story is everybody goes to the cinema, and there's this feature-length animated movie you helped to create, which I think is a bit of a new concept. It's much more a transmedia concept, because it has different kinds of layers, and it's on TV, it's in print, it's in the cinema, of course. So it has much more different elements into it, and I think that's going to be a new and evolving way to involve kids in actually what is a fun movie about creativity. The main thing, I think, in the television landscape in Belgium, and especially in Flanders, is the increased competition. So, I mean, the viewer base remains the same. Every channel basically wants TV drama, because that's the highest scoring kind of television program you can bring. So fiction or TV drama is very popular, so everybody wants to make it. But if we want to make TV drama for every night in the schedule, all those dramas have to be cheaper, basically to fill the whole schedule. And so we are feeling quite a bit of pressure of doing things cheaply, more economically, in fewer days, with fewer actors, and with fewer locations, everything fewer and fewer and fewer, which on the one hand has its advantages because we learn to tell our stories in a very economic and efficient way. But on the other hand, it standardizes production and you get more and more, I think, of the same. So that's also what I want to take away from here, is to have more cooperation and to try and tell other more open global stories, because the same thing is happening in a local market. Is all your stories tend to be focused on local issues. They're very local stories which don't travel well or lose a bit of their, how should I say, universal appeal. So, and I want to reach out more to stories which are more universal, which can travel all over Europe, even if it's a remake or just sold, whatever. But I think that's cooperation on that front is more of a future. And it's also much more creative, because when you're cooperating with writers or other creative people from other countries, you bring in new ideas, you bring in fresh ideas, and that's going to show up in the shows you make. What I think for Belgian drama and a future is finding kind of its own voice in that. And I cannot pretend to have a solution to know exactly what that voice is, but if you're aware of your own identity, you always try and think, okay, but if I'm telling this story, what would make that unique? And I was discussing with Tom Collins from Ireland yesterday about, we have the same idea for a story, exactly the same idea, and he's from Ireland and I'm from Belgium, but I'm sure if we tell that story, and the way we're talking about our stories, because the subject matter is the same, but the tone and what he brings as an Irishman, or what I bring as a Belgian to that story, that it's in the tone and in the shading, and I think from Belgium's side, maybe in a sort of the way we look at stories, or maybe even the absurdism of some things, that we can find a unique voice, and I'm sure that if the story comes from Ireland, it will have its own unique voice too. But you find your tone or your voice. That's what the Scandinavians did. They build on it for more than 20 years, and you find your tone and your voice, and you find what works well for you, or what audiences want from you. And so it's like an ongoing process, I think. We heard and we studied the writer's room model, especially in the US, and how that worked. And we said, okay, let's take the risk, because it's a risk, because it costs us financially more than the traditional way we used to do that. But I found some money, so we spend a bit more now on the stories. But I convinced the network to do that, because the stories is the base of what we do. Let's spend a bit less if we need to on actual production, but let's spend it more on developing the stories or getting strong stories. So we did that, and to my satisfaction, it worked very well. So we started. I only had to change one writer, because he didn't really completely fit into the group, let's say, or didn't work as well as we wanted. But since then, I think we've taken steps, and we're now sometimes working very efficiently and constructing stories in a day even, and stuff like that. So it's working very well.